Get amazed with amazing offers from Honda. Bring home a brand new Honda Amaze with new offers and exciting benefits up to Rs 30,000. For details and bookings, visit your nearest Honda showroom now.
Hi, welcome to Cinema Express. I'm Anusha, and today I'll be joined by the makers of Netflix documentary The Elephant Whisperers. We have its creator Kartiki Gunslaves and its producer Guneet Manga. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for having us.
First of all, a huge congratulations, both of you. Uh, I thoroughly enjoyed the documentary. It's quite a heartwarming tale. And it's a pleasure meeting you at this point. I'd like to start this conversation from Guneet. So this experience is not something new for you, right? Because back in 2019, your executive produced film documentary, Period End of Sentence, which actually made it to the Oscars and won in the documentary short category. And we're
Yes,
just a couple of days away from Oscars
combination.
releasing the nominations. Yes, yes. So, and with Elephant Whispers getting so much of recognition, how's it been for you? And did you expect the makers? Did you guys expect that you'd come this way once again?
Um, I think the story is really special. I love Kartiki's journey on this story, discovering the story. I have never. I'm grateful for the journey of Period End of Sentence. So grateful to be part of it, and for being a part of a documentary that wins. To be able to be there, experience the whole joy. But I have always said this, that we never really get into a story thinking this will go to the awards. You just get into a story for its love, for what it is. Karti's lived with the story for 5 years, building and following Baman and Belly and Raghu and Amu, and I've been on this journey with her for 3.5 years with Netflix. Uh, it's that journey is special for me. That whole journey of putting this film together, going through the ups and downs, finding the story has been joy. uh all I know, what we can do as filmmakers is show up every morning with intention and continue telling the story. We hope it comes together and connects to people around the world. I'm so excited that it is on Netflix, and for whole world to see it across 190 countries with 223 million viewers. And as and when awards happen to get shortlisted, it's epic. I mean, we are amongst the top 15 films in the world this year. Uh, that is a whole amazing feeling, of course. It is validation, it is, uh, but somewhere deep inside down, we just wanted to make the truest form of the story. And we are glad that it is out there in the world. Um, and it moves to get, and if it moves forward, gets nominated, we'll be very humbled and even more grateful. But we don't start with making a film for an award, but we just start for telling a story. And the story happens. I actually feel very spiritual about it. I feel like the story chooses us. But
Hmm.
Raghu chose us rather than, being somebody who's like, we found it, or, it's the other way around. So I feel very spiritual about this. So I think the journey is very important to me, and it's been an absolutely incredible journey collaborating with Kartiki and Netflix, unfolding this journey. And I think in bigger picture, who can say no to baby elephants? So yeah.
True, true, true. And this actually led me to the next my next question is Kartiki. So when I'd like to know this heartwarming tale of it's I see it as a family of four story, and when it comes to Elephant Whispers, how did the journey begin? Like, when did you feel okay? This is the story I want to tell, and especially in a documentary way. How did it all go about? How did you discover Bowman Belly, Raghu, and Amukuti?
Well, the first thing I'd love to say is that I fell in love with Raghu. It all began there. And when I first met Raghu, I was driving on my way back from Ooty to Bangalore to pack my belongings and move back to Ooty. And I was driving through and I suddenly saw this tiny elephant calf. He was only 3 months old and he was not any taller than a little above my knee. And I was just so amazed at how tiny an elephant calf is, because I've interacted with much larger elephants, but then Raghu was just the cutest little creature. And he couldn't use his trunk. He was stumbling along the pathway. And I saw Bowman for the first time. And he looked very different, and seemed so warm, and he beckoned me to come. So I pulled my car over, jumped out, went with them for a bath, and we went down to the river, and Raghu had to have his bath, and he was just splashing around in the water, and he
This
would
was
stick his
totally
tongue out.
unplanned. I'm sorry, this was totally unplanned.
Yes, it was completely unplanned. And I just spent the whole time with them, and I spent many hours with them, and I noticed that they had this special bond between Bowman and Raghu. And Bowman seemed to be a parent, both a mother, a father, a friend. And it was amazing to see the trust levels between Raghu and Bowman, because I think when Raghu was orphaned, he sort of just saw Bowman as being his herd, his mother. And that's how it all began. And then I realized that this bond is so special, and it's something you don't usually get to see, because it's rare that you actually get to experience something like this. So I just soaked it all in. And then I met Belly, and she had this very maternal bond, and a much deeper bond than what Bowman had, in a different way. So Bowman appeared to be the more caring person, in terms of he would go get the food and make sure every bit of Raghu was taken care of. And then you had Belly, sorry, who was just the maternal side, cleaning his head off, making sure he was happy and nothing was wrong with him, making sure he got his milk on time, and being the emotional support that he needed. And so then after that, it just progressed. I spent so much time with them, and I developed a bond with Bowman and Belly, and also with Raghu. So before we actually started documenting anything professionally, I'd always spent a good chunk of time building trust with Bowman and Belly, being their friend. And we just got to exchange our different lives together as normal people would do. And then they were comfortable about me taking photographs of them and videos. So it began initially with me using my phone and using a GoPro, using my DSLR camera. And then we slowly moved to a different camera. And we have some of that footage in the current documentary. So I think that's where the beginning of the movie began. But then there was this whole other side, which is kind of this bittersweet beginning to the story, because the Asian elephants are losing their habitat at a very rapid pace due to encroachment and climate change. So it was a bit depressing to see all of this. But then at the end of the day, I really wanted to make a positive story. So, and calves that during today are basically getting orphaned and abandoned fairly often. So I wanted people to be able to understand these beautiful beings on a deeper level and recognize all their traits of intelligence and how similar they were to humans. And I wanted to get people to help protect elephants and to protect other animals, and to also protect the landscape that they require to live for longer periods of time. So that was the main core of where this originated. I wanted to also bring out the indigenous people and give them a voice. And Bowman and Belly and Raghu and Amu share a very special bond. So this developed over a fair amount of time as we started like the 5-year documentary of their lives. And that's how the Elephant Whisperers basically came into being.
And this is how even you also broke the outsider's gaze, right? Like being with them, spending time with them over the course of time, and then beginning to shoot your film. Is that how that it all started also?
I think in a whole lot of documentaries that it's usually the case where you have an external voice. And I feel like it's really important for Indigenous people to have their own voice, because they have so much to offer. And there's so many things that we need to learn. This was the chance where I was able to give them a voice. And I think that was very important in this story, especially. And there's so many things that we can learn from Indigenous people, the way they live, the way they coexist with animals. And that's something that I think we, over time, have distanced ourselves from.
And in Elephant Whisperers, what I see is beyond the human-animal relationship, as you said, there's a lot of culture of the people being represented, the indigenous tribe, and more importantly, it normalizes many stigmas like late matrimony or widow remarriage. It normalizes them, and that's something very important. So how such aspects were being told in the story? Did you think that these aspects should be incorporated within this human-animal relationship? How did that go about?
So I think that goes back to how true a documentary is, because there's certain things that you could bring in, but then that turns out to be fiction. When the moment you think that this is the way it should be, that becomes fiction. So I think we strived really hard. In fact, Guni and me kept talking about this, that we really want to keep it to its core idea. We wanted to follow the lives and their lives in the most representable way, the most honest way. So we just proceeded with the story. And we did have some pressure about, okay, we should have this bit and we should have different aspects of it, but then we always went back to the core because that was the message that we wanted to put out. So I think I mean, that's, yeah, that would basically answer your question, is that we just stuck to the main story, the storyline. Yeah.
A question to Guneet is, when I look into the filmography, like, be it Surere Potre or Lunchbox or Period End of Sentence or even Elephant Whispers, the sense of tonality that I'm not able to put into words, but it touches about human relationships, very simple emotions, but it's very nuanced and very layered. So, as a producer, I'm sure you might be getting tons and tons of scripts and narrations and one-liners. But what makes it to the cut for you, and how did Elephant Whispers make that cut? And what is that thing that X factor that you look into a script that you want to produce or back?
Sure, and thank you for acknowledging my work over the years. It's a twofold answer to this. One, of course, the story. What is the heart of the story? What is the core of the story? And who's the filmmaker? So for me, it's a two-step process. Falling in love with the story and the filmmaker is important because it's a long journey. It's like you're married to each other and you have this little dream together, and you both want to protect it and make sure that the best version of this comes out. So so that journey is producing, and I've had the most amazing time collaborating with Kartiki, having a friend, finding this story through her eyes, through her lens. So it's been I think over the years, what makes the cut for me is the heart, and it's so intuitive. And I'm so glad that that people are joining dots and maybe seeing, and it's also for me discovering my voice over the years, that okay, this is what I really like and this is what I really like to do. So yeah, I love human emotions. This story for me is sacred. There is a deep spiritual side of this, the underlining of this, the subtext of the story, like you picked up in your last question, is beautiful. And we're glad that that's being acknowledged by audiences watching it around the world.
And since we're dealing with elephants here, and even though if it's humans, at least we can give them some sort of instructions, but it's animals and it's documentary, so we can't stage anything. So what sort of pre-production or what sort of planning went into it? Like, I'm sure it could have gone haywire sometimes, it would have not gone as planned. So how did that the things that happened on the sets or while shooting it, how did that happen? How did the pre-productions happen? A few words on that would be great.
So we didn't actually have pre-production in that aspect. I think what we did is I have been working with wildlife over the course of my life. So it wasn't anything new for me in terms of being with elephants, being with indigenous communities, or being in the space, because this is my home. I grew up in that very forest. I've walked through those very pathways. And it was a very homegrown story for that matter. And I think just it's something that you just have to start following. I think with this, it was just more about documenting day in and day out. It wasn't fiction, so you don't have sets, you don't have a script you're working with. So you're just basically documenting the daily life of Burman and Belly and their experiences with Raghu and Amu. And it's just something you have to be patient with. I think you don't go in with the idea that it's going to be 5 years, 6 years. You go in with the heart that this is something that you're really passionate about. And I think that's what really drives a story to its very end. You can't tell if it's going to be a couple of months. You can't tell if it's going to be a couple of years. You can't tell if it's even going to be 7 years. It's something you really have to be super passionate about to follow. So I think it just goes back to just documenting everything that you can, because everything is special and you're learning every step of the way. Like, there were so many things about elephants that I learned along this journey. Watching Raghu and Amu grow up, watching the interactions of elephant calves at different stages of their lives and their requirements, what they need as they grow up. So I think it's just a big learning process, and a combination of just being there all the time and being able to capture everything is key when it comes to documentary.
And I like to ask if there's one takeaway. This question is to both of you. If there's one takeaway or one learning or one thing that you realize, it could be a facet of life or a personal learning or belief that you take away after making Elephant Whisperers, what would it be for both of you?
For me, it's there in the film. When Boman and Belly actually say that we coexist with the jungle and we take what we need. So that for me really hits it home, because I think as human beings, we are now living in an overproducing, overconsumption of everything, and excess of everything. So I think I feel like there's enough and more this earth has provided for us. We're as a race facing climate change, as a race facing we've done so much destruction. We have taken so much habitat away from other species. So for this, the story at the core of it is about coexistence. And when you really look at that as a way of life, there's enough for everyone. And I hope that message connects with people somewhere deep down watching and experiencing Elephant Whisperers.
And for Kartiki, what would be your takeaway or your?
I think I'd have to echo that. I think in this time, there are so many stories of animals being killed and species that are being driven to extinction. And I think this positive story actually highlights the beauty of man and animal working together through coexistence. So I strongly believe that coexistence is the way we need to move forward into the future. Only with mutual respect and cooperation can we help to save the planet at this time and day.
And to wrap up this conversation, I have a very common question to both of you again. So, and since both of you work behind the camera, I need to know how important is it to have, in general, an inclusivity, a gender inclusivity on the sets, especially in Indian films and the Indian film industry. And I ask this because off late this bandwagon of women-centric films, and we see a lot of strong women characters being written on screen. But behind the camera, I think we need a lot of women also, or to be more gender inclusive, and to say that how important a woman need not just tell a woman's story. It can be into commercial cinema space, it could be in the documentary space, so many other aspects that a woman can also venture into. So I like to know from both of you, how important is that aspect of having a very gender inclusive sets behind the camera?
At the core of it, I mean, this is led by two women, who are here in front of you representing the film, and here are two women from India. Here is an Indian film shortlisted at the Oscars this year, so a large part of me coming on board on this film is Kartiki, and her vision, her experience, and her empathy, with that comes along. So I think inclusivity, yes, definitely. I'm glad Kartiki is an incredible wildlife photographer herself, moving, and now an incredible documentary filmmaker. I think inclusivity allows us empathy, and that forms the heart of the story. And all this is somewhere, this is not something that can be manufactured. This is just something that we come with on the table. It's part of our being. We add our being to the story that further connects with people. So this cannot be broken down, like because of that person, this happened. But because of who we are as human beings, we bring that. So we had an incredible women crew. We had a balance of incredible men also who've been part of our crew, in producing team, in camera work, in sound. It's been people who are, I think, like-minded, aware from all over the country, fantastic at their jobs, and with the heart at the right place. So it's I think as producer, even crewing is an important part. But Kartiki leading this tribe of putting this film together has been an incredible journey. So I think it all adds up. It's I'm very happy that that Kartiki gets to debut with Sikya and with Netflix with this incredible film.
Great. And about
I think
Kartiki?
I just like to add something because I think she put it very beautifully out there. So I just like to add a little bit of thing. I think when it comes to women and being able to tell stories, I think women have a special space of being able to go that extra mile. And I think because I was local and from the place and I was a woman, I really think Belly and all really opened up. I think if to be very honest, if it was a man trying to document this, I think there might have been a barrier up there. So I think it's just something that you're able to communicate with another woman about their lives. And I think that had to do with how Belly was so vulnerable. She opened up her life because she understood that I was a woman and I was one like her. And some of these things were common in the whole world. So I think that it really helped uh, being a woman and being able to tell the story.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful talking to you and wishing you guys all the best. And fingers crossed for the Elephant Whisperers to make it to the final cut and win the award once more.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank you.